Rev up your engines!
Well, say it ain't so, Joe. Toyota's recalling over 700,000 of their vehicles for defective fuel pumps. You go down the highway and they say the fuel pump might stop working, car will stop running, maybe somebody will run into you or you'll freak out and run into somebody. This covers certain 2018 to 19 both Lexuses and Toyotas. From the Lexus ES350 to the RX350 to the LS500. And on the Toyota side, 2018 to 19, some of the Avalons, some of the Corollas. This is a big deal. Personally, as a mechanic, and I've been working on cars for 52 years. I have, in the last 4 decades, have a lot of customers with Toyotas. They're well made. I told them, customer to buy them. And in those 52 years, I've only ever had to change out 2 fuel pumps in Toyota and Lexus products. Was a Celica that had over 200,000 miles, and the fuel pump just wore out, and I had to replace it. The other one, an old Toyota Supra, and it had been sitting for 15 years, and they let the gas tank get empty. It was rusty. It had some water in it, and when I took it apart, I didn't have to pull the tank on that, the hatch, and then went under all that plastic crap and covers that were there, and then took over the cover bolts, and there's the access to the fuel tank where the fuel pump is. I take it out and I pull out the fuel pump, and the fuel pump was like one encrusted piece of rust because it had been sitting so many years empty, and somehow water had gotten into the tank. It didn't have a gas cap on it, and it had rusted solid. Now expect that. So if in 52 years I've only had to change 2 fuel pumps on Toyotas, and I work on a lot of them, that says something. But this, that they have to recall 700,000 of them for defective fuel pumps, it kind of tells me that what's going on in the world, that's what people depended on, Toyotas. Are even they joining the group now where, hey, the bean counters are taking over? If we make these pumps cheaper, we'll save money. You know, I'm really shocked by that. Now, I know from past experience, the fuel pumps, all the ones that I've ever seen on them, were made by Nippon Denso. Nippon Denso is a separate Japanese company. I don't know the whole history of this, if these changed from Nippon Denso. I'm kind of assuming they'd still be using the company Nippon Denso, but they have to recall all those for defective fuel pumps. To me, that's kind of like the handwriting on the wall for our whole society. Gee, if Toyota starts making poor vehicles, is there any hope for people to buy something that's going to last these days? Steve067 says, Scotty, my daughter has an '02 Mazda Tribute, V6 automatic, 161,000 kilometers. Today it lost reverse gear. It just revs up in reverse. All right, what you want to do is find a guy like me with a fancy scan tool, scan the thing first. Scan the computer system and pray there's something wrong, like a bad solenoid, perhaps a wire came off or something. But from my experience with those Mazdas, when they do that and they lose reverse gear and just spin, the transmission shot, it needs overhaul. That's what? 18-year-old Tribute. You'd probably be better junking it than fixing it. Because last time I had a customer with one of those, I sent it to my transmission guy, because I don't rebuild those automatic transmissions. He told them it was going to be probably $5,000 to $6,000, and they just junked the car after that. If it is a transmission, you're probably better off junking the vehicle than you are trying to fix it. Now, some guys will use a used transmission from a junkyard, but those are weak transmissions. You put in a used transmission, it might not last that long. Heck, it might even not work when you put it in, because it's in a junkyard. It might have been broken too, especially if it was in a wreck or flooded or something. Do have it scanned. Pray it's a bad solenoid or something. There's a small percentage chance it can, but from my experience of working on those things, it means the transmission shot. Bob the Head King says, since motor oil degrades over time, is it unwise to buy motor oil in bulk, or is it fine as long as the oil's sealed? It will degrade over time from oxidation and stuff, but if you got it in a can, it's not going to be oxidizing much. Think about it. Where did that oil come from? Oil in the ground. Now, it's been in the ground for millions of years. Now, it's relatively sealed down there because it's underground, right? You don't have air, oxygen flowing through it all the time. You know, it's going to last a pretty long time. I personally have had bottles of castor oil. I like the castor oil. Sit in the back of my garage, and one day I'm rummaging through crap and say, wow, look, here's a couple of quarts of castor oil. And they're in the old plastic bottles with the tops, and they're still tightened up. And I take it out and smell it and pour it. It's perfectly normal, and I put it in my own car and drive it, no problems at all. So you can buy in bulk. Don't really worry about that. Now, gasoline, no, because that'll just come apart. It can only last so long because it's blended gasoline with all kinds of additives. Gasoline you cannot store over time yourself. But the engine oil, No problem. Petro09 says, Scotty, is it bad for an engine to use an oil that has a lower viscosity at cold temperature but the same that's specified by the manufacturer at hot temperature? We actually used to do that when I was a young mechanic because oils weren't as good as they are today. In the winter, we would put a lower viscosity. If it was a 2040 oil, we'd put a 1040 oil in the winter. And in the summer, we'd put heavier oil. But today's oils are so well made that stick to what the factory viscosity is. If you live in a really cold climate, Alaska, Northern Ontario, Siberia, then you use the recommended viscosity, but just make sure you use full synthetic oil. Because the one big advantage of full synthetic oil is it flows better at lower temperatures, much better than just plain normal oil. If you're living in Siberia, you use a full synthetic oil, it's going to have better flow capability. You don't need to change it. You use the same thing all year long, but the full synthetic stuff is just going to flow better. Modern oil technology has really gotten better than it used to be. And so you don't have to worry about changing them during the year, summer, winter. They're set up for a whole year. And if you do live in a really cold place, you are much better off using a full synthetic oil because they flow better. Mayakovsky24 says, my friend is accidentally pumping NASCAR spec Sunoco Green E15 98 octane unleaded racing gasoline in his 2019 Mazda MX Miata that has 10,000 miles. My question, are there any short and long-term usage problems of using this if he keeps it? No, because that Sunoco Green E15, it's got high octane level. It's E15. That's generally the stuff you're getting at the pump these days, 15% ethanol and 85% gasoline. If he was using another brand of Sunoco racing gas, Sunoco is one of the few companies that makes pure alcohol type, but they were using that, which is basically an alcohol-based fuel, the whole thing. But E15 is E15. It's 15% ethanol and 85% gasoline. He doesn't mind spending the money for it. It'd run perfectly fine with it. The computer will be able to know what it's running on. It would probably run car well, but he's spending an awful lot of money driving his car around every day using that racing fuel. It's overkill. Yamil says, will buying an aftermarket cabin air filter affect anything? Well, you know, the air filters, the cabin air filters, all they do is keep dirt and they filter the air for the inside of your car. As long as they fit, you can use whatever you want. But realize, some of these aftermarket ones are made like crap. There's hardly any filtering material and they don't filter that well. From my experience, if you want good filtering, I have found that companies like K&N, they make the carbon activated cabin air filters that are excellent filters. There's a bunch of people that make them. That just happens to be one I know off the top of my head. You get ones that have the activated ones, they look darker. They actually filter smells out better. It's common sense. If you're really sensitive to smells, get a high quality one like that. And the advantage of the K&N ones is you can take them out and clean them and then put them back in instead of keep throwing them away and putting new ones in. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt anything no matter what you use for the machine itself because it's just a filter. But if you are more sensitive inside your lungs, you want to buy the best ones you can that do the highest level of filtration. You might even look around and see if you can find a HEPA one and put that in there because the better it filters, the less crap is going to get in your lungs. And if you're sensitive, you'd be better off with a HEPA filter if you can find one that'll fit your particular car. Joy Wilbur says, hey, are you going to teach your grandkids how to fix cars? Thanks for all the help. All right, I kind of doubt it. I didn't even teach my sons because I'm a slave driver. And my wife said to them, you know, you don't want to work for him. He's a slave driver. He'll expect you to know everything perfect and never make a mistake, which is probably true. So I'm pretty much stuck slave driving myself. I've worked by myself, for myself, for the last 50 plus years. So I teach the world through my videos, you know, but if you actually had to work for me, you'd probably run screaming out the door, something like that. Although I have mellowed somewhat as I got older, you know, but I don't have patience, and I especially don't have patience for something that somebody doesn't pick up right away. I mean, my grandfather, who I learned from, was the same way. What he did was, I said, you going to teach me how to fix stuff? He says, no, I'm not going to teach you anything, but you can watch. So I didn't say anything. I never asked him questions. I just watched. And I learned by watching. I'm a very visual person. So I learned by watching and went that way. And today, of course, with the internet, you can really use your eyes because you can research whatever you want on the internet and get all kinds of car repair information to learn how to do it yourself. One of the reasons I've got almost 1 billion views in my videos now because so many people want to learn how to do that stuff, and you don't have to deal with me in person. You deal with the recorded Scotty in the videos where I give all the information, and you know, if you want to watch it 10 times, that's fine, but I'm not there telling you 10 times over and over again. I only have to film it once. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.